Have you ever had an idea pop into your head, or you've had a vision, an inspiration, a dream, or just a creative thought, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll store it in my brain. I have retentive memory. I have retentive memory. I will remember the play. 10 days down the line, what am I even saying? 2 days. Okay, 2 days is giving it a lot of stretch. 1 hour after you've had that idea, that thought, you can't remember. You're thinking, I had a thought today, or I had this idea, and just like that, that idea, that creative thought, that vision, poof, disappears into thin air, no traces. I know as I'm said this now, some of you are saying it is true, I remember. Why you're still remembering all the times you've lost your ideas? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hey vibers, welcome to episode 6 of my 2 cents on Vibing with Stacia. I remain your host, Stacia, and if you're new here, it's always a delight to have you. We do have a tradition. We subscribe, turn on the notification, and stay tuned for posts like this. And to the OGs who know the drill, it's always a pleasure to welcome you back. Thank you so much for your immeasurable support. I appreciate you. So let's get into it. When you have a creative idea, what do? You think, oh, my brain has the capacity to retain this idea. I will remember it. Of course, true. Our brains have the capacity to not just create, but to also store. However, our brain does more of creating than storing. So what do? When an idea pops into your head, when you have a vision, when it feels like, oh, God has placed an inspo, you got that inspiration, what do? You write it down. Let me say it again. You write it down. Once you write down your ideas, your vision, your dreams, your aspiration, you give it roots. You solidify its presence on earth. Now you have this idea, you talk about it, oh yes, it is floating. But the moment you write it down, you've put it down, it means you've penned it. Okay. Not like that, but then yes, you've trapped it. It's now a seed that you've planted, and it will start taking roots. It has a presence, it has a trail. You could look back at it, you could find it. If you search through your journal, you will see it. If you search through your diary, you will find it. But if you've not written it down, that idea is, you might have a similar idea, but it's not the same as the one that initially came into your head the first time that you didn't write down and you can't recall. So when you write down your ideas, your dreams, your goals, it's giving it a life presence. It's like you breathing life into it. Now you're saying, okay, you are real. Writing it down immortalizes it. And even if it takes you a decade, 2 years, months, weeks to actually actualize it, you eventually get there. Even centuries. Sometimes you write down ideas, dreams, vision, and you are not the person to bring it to fruition. You could stumble on your great grandfather's journal or a diary that someone documented a long time ago with an idea that is still relevant to the present day. And because someone wrote down that idea, you have access to it, and you can bring that idea to its full potential. But if that idea was not documented anywhere, just like that, it has gone. A typical example would be scientific researchers. Now, most of the scientists that actually bring to bear groundbreaking research didn't start them. Some was from the research work of others, just people's documentation. Okay, I did this, I did that, this happened, this amount of this made this happen, this. Because it was documented, because it was written down, because those ideas were immortalized on paper, you have access to it. People can work on those ideas, they can develop on those ideas, and they can reinvent those things because someone documented it, someone wrote it down. And now it's easy. You have digital notes. Everyone has a smartphone, or almost everyone has access to a smartphone, and your smartphones are constantly on you, or at least within reach. So if an idea pops into your head, all you have to do is take out your phone and just write it down. Like, I always do that. I am very traditional, so I would prefer pen and paper. But if I don't have access to pen and paper, as and when I get a thought, I do that on my notes, and it's there, and you could always look back on it. And sometimes you forget it, but you just go through your notes one time and you feel like, oh, this idea, oh, this dream, oh, this goal, I wrote it down. These were the things that I wanted to do. And if at the point where you are revisiting them, you've not started, because you've written them down, you have the chance now to start, because you remember, oh, I did think about doing this and I still have the time to do it, or the year has not ended, I can still achieve this. But when you don't write down your goals, there are no trails, there are no traces. It just comes and goes. It's like your office email. If your manager has a task for you that they want you to do, they send you an email. Dear Blessing, can you kindly review this document? Give me all the index before close of business, or latest 9 a.m. tomorrow. Now there is a trail of that task. If I don't deliver by 9 a.m. tomorrow, I will have to give the reason for not delivering, because there is an email that says, oh, do this, do that. But if she had just said, oh, Blessing, do that, and then tomorrow 9 a.m. she says, ah, Blessing, I asked you to review that document, where is it? I'll be like, you asked me? You didn't ask me. And at that point, she may start doubting herself. Am I going cocoa? Because I remember asking this lady to do that, but maybe I didn't. Maybe it was in my head. But because she has an email trail, she can go and say, oh, I remember asking you. So it is here, evident. And it's not just with our dreams and aspiration. Most times I feel like I want to reach out to my friends. I have it in my head to message this person, to say hi to this person, to check up on this person, to ask about them, their health, how they're doing. It's in my head. I could have easily just brought out my phone while I thought about it. Let's say I remembered Chidera today. Why I remember Chidera today? I type, hi Chidera, hope you're okay, just checking up on you. Now that thought in my head has roots. I've brought it out, and she might not respond, or it might not get to her or deliver at the time, but it's already there. Or if I set a reminder, oh, remind me to text Chidera. Now there is something, there's roots, because that idea that I want to do, I've put it out there, I've documented it, I will get back to it. And so even if I don't do it now, because I've set a reminder for so time, by then when it reminds me, I do it. So when you write down these things, when you write your goals, your ideas, it always brings you back. But when you allow your ideas to just puff into the air, just like that, you put them out there, or it pops in your head, it pops out. So trap your ideas, trap your dreams, trap your goals by writing it down. And it doesn't take much. It's a digitalized world now. Technology has made things super easy. You could speak what you're thinking, and AI will just automatically transcribe that into writing for you. It's that easy. So what other excuse do you have? Why are you letting your ideas, your goals, your aspirations to just float away? To float without existence? To die in your head? Our brains have the capacity to remember, true, or to store things, and you could always dig back in it, but you've got to go the extra mile. Like I said, the brain does more of the creating, the thinking. Don't pressurize it too much. When you write things, it makes things easier. Like, I write a lot. This is a book I bought, and then I wrote down where I bought it, time I bought it, and I signed what book there. In years to come, I always remember I bought this book in 2026 because I wrote it down. Remember in episode 2 when I spoke about my election in school and how I focused all my energy on that election? Well, I found my diary. So while I was in uni, I always kept a diary. Anything that happened to me, how I felt the day, my happiness, I journaled it down. My goals, I wrote it down. And so within that period, I had written down my experience, or what I was experiencing at the time of the election. And if you permit me, I'll read this real quick for you. So as you can see, it says I didn't have time to do daily drop-ins, so I just did like for the week 22nd April to 3rd of May 2014. So it says, Dear Diary, I will fill you in on what has been happening. I came back to school and continued where I left off. It hasn't been easy. Campaign has been moving fine but slow. I needed to gain more ground, and my books wear coats of dust because they have been neglected. Sometimes I begin to second guess myself and if all this trouble will count for something. I heard really hateful stuff, bad enough to kill my soul and spirit, but the good stuff were more and spurred me on. Also, our debate finally came. I had worked so hard, pushed myself, and well, we lost. I was replaced with Ufomba and he flopped. It was all Yemi's fault. It made me feel like a failure and made me scared for the upcoming election, coupled with the fact that politics is filled with betrayals and lies, and you never know who will abandon you. I made some true friends. For instance, Utman Adeleke. We weren't so close, but he became a true ally just because of what I said to him after the parliamentary election. I said, Utman, though I didn't get there, I'm happy you, Sammy, and Chima are there. Mr. Bright was another political cornerstone. It's funny because this is the same guy I kept posting, and yet he became a political confidant. Whenever I feel depressed about the whole election, he was always there to listen and give advice. John Bello is a silent shoulder to lean on. We got talking during the semi-finals of our mock trials against their chambers, and he has been really supportive. Michael Lago has been a real sweetheart and daddy. I don't know how we cross paths, but you'll be a friend I'll forever be indebted to. You're a true friend, a motivator, an aspiration, a mentor, and a brother. I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, pray that our bond go a long way. I see myself in you always. I dream of becoming better than you, and if I can't, I want to be equal rival in a good way. When things get tough, I look at you and draw courage and zeal. I am grateful you really believe in me. If there's one person I can vouch will never betray me, it's you. You might not know this, but you are a blessing to me. Then in bracket, I can't believe I'm crying. I was crying when I was writing this. David and Olaolu, you guys have been truly amazing. Thank you for going all out for me the way you do. So, that is me. I always like to journal. I always like to write my goals down, my aspirations. I like to revisit them, the things I wrote about myself. I like to prophesy over my life, and I write them down, and then I come back to it. In times when things are difficult or I can't see a breakthrough, I go back to the things I wrote down. I go back to the goals I wrote down. I look at them and I'm like, I'll get to you. And so sometimes writing things down, it's for your own motivation. When it's on paper, there's something to always go back to, like a blueprint. You go back to it, you remember why you wrote this thing down. Remember why that goal, that idea, that vision was important for you. But if you don't have traces of them, how do you go back? What do you revisit? How do you double check your progress? How do you measure what your next step will be? So writing them down helps you. When I moved to the UK, I also started keeping a journal. This was back in the uni, but I've not really done much here. But I have something. This is Dear Diary, 29 February 2024. So I'm not going to read this. Let me not bore you with all the things I wrote. But one thing that stood out from what I wrote here were my declarations over my life. And I told myself before the next sleep year that I will be working in my purpose. I will be working in grace. And today I am working in it. And that is the essential of this podcast, My Two Cents. I believe that I have so much light and positivity to give and wisdom to share with the world. People say my voice is really nice, and sometimes when something about you stands out, it's because that is your purpose. That is a tool to actualize your purpose. I don't have a good voice because God just decided to give me. It was because this voice was meant to inspire people. It was meant to preach healing. It was meant to motivate someone. It was meant to deliver the message of hope to someone who needs it. And when you delay in following your purpose or delivering, God gives that to someone else, right? Have you ever had an idea in your head, like a business idea, any kind of idea, and you see, or you dragged your feet, and then all of a sudden you see someone else has the same idea, someone else is already actualizing that idea? That's because if you're a vessel for God, if God has put in an idea, or if God has given you something that He wants you to share with the world, it's not for you. You are someone's answered prayers. And the more you delay, it means someone's prayers are not going to be heard because you are taking your time. If something is in your head, an idea, write it down. If you have a business knowledge, write it down. It's not for you. Any business you create today is necessarily not for you. That business will create jobs. That business will solve a problem. And it's for the people around that it caters to. If you have an idea, a wisdom to share, a knowledge, it's not for you because you already know it. But it's for someone who is ignorant, someone who had no knowledge of it. That is why you're speaking life, speaking that wisdom into that person. At that moment, the person needs to hear those words to activate their own dream, their own blessings, their own life. So the more you delay, or when it pops in your head and you forget to write it down and it disappears without traces, you're harming someone else, right? The more you are afraid to own your identity and your power, someone somewhere is suffering for it. So document your life, not just your ideas. Document your life, things that you will look back to, how you're feeling in the moment, what's making you happy, what's making you sad. Write them down, come back to it, because at every phase of your life, when you leave traces of that phase, you could always revisit it. Now I've read you an excerpt from my diary, and just reading that again took me back to 2014. During the time of the election, I can vividly now recall everything that happened because I had left traces on pen and paper. I wrote it down. I am old school. I like to do pen and paper, but you could be digital. Your notes are there. You would always come back to it. It could be Instagram. Instagram used to be my picture diary. I post there not because I just want to show, but for the things I want to always remember. And now when I go back to my Insta, I could check years down the things I did, the things I posted, what I wrote, the inscription, what it was all about. I can read it and remember and recall, and I'm seeing the picture. So Insta used to be my picture diary. Twitter as well. When you write things down, you immortalize them. Now people had said things, they had posted things on Twitter, and years after, it has come back to haunt them because those things they said, they immortalized it by writing it down, and they were not good stuff. So make sure whatever it is you're trying to immortalize, it's something you're going to be proud of in 10 years to come, in 100 years to come, that your generations after you will be proud that you did, that you wrote down. And it's biblical as well. Remember in Deuteronomy, when Moses brought out the people from the land of Egypt, and at the point God told him to teach them a song. He said, write this down, because these people, he knows them. By the time he takes them to the land flowing with milk and honey, they will forget all he did for them, all he did for their forefathers, and turn to worship other gods. Now that song will be my witness. When you write things down, like I said, you immortalize it. So God said, write it down lest they forget. Because they will forget, they will turn away from him. They will not remember all the good things that he has done. So at every phase of your life, whether it is good, whether it is painful, if you journal it, if you write it down, when you come back to it, you can look at it and be like, there was a time. There were times I've cried and I thought I will never, that phase will never end. But those phases of my life ended. And when I go back to read the things I wrote, I just remember it and I recall it and I'm like, there was a time. And I think that was the whole essence of God saying, write it down, let it be a witness. Because these people, the descendants now, they should go back and read. There was a time I saved your forefathers. I breached the Red Sea. I parted it for them. The things I did. Don't forget who your God is. So the message today is, if you have an idea, Write it down. You have a smartphone always at your disposal. Put it down on your notes. If you're thinking of a business, write it down. If you think of any idea that can enhance your business, write it down. Any idea that can enhance you as a person, write it down. If someone gives you advice that you think it's valuable, pick the key things, write it down. Because the moment you leave, you forget. It's a beautiful idea, you love it, but if you don't immortalize it, if you don't give it roots, it floats away and leaves no traces. So whatever it is, write it down. If you're in your period of waiting, write down the things you want to say. Whatever idea God is giving you in that period, write it down. Whatever thought, whatever creative ideology you're conceiving, write it down. Again, you might not get to execute it immediately. Sometimes the ideas, the dreams you've written down take years before you even come back to execute them. But once you've written it down, you will always remember why you wrote it down, why that dream mattered to you, why that idea was beautiful at the time when you wrote it down, and it will still be valuable at any point in your life. So the message is to always write it down. Immortalize your ideas, your thoughts, your gratitude, your love, your whatever it is you're thinking. Put it out there. Your brain is big, but it can't save everything. So once the thought pops in, pop it out by writing it down. Give it life, give it breath, so that one day it can thrive. And I hope this has inspired something in you. Your ideas are not wasted. You've just not been writing them down. If you write them down, even if it's an idea that you don't get to execute, the generations after you can execute your beautiful idea and pay homage to you. To be like, this was my grandfather's idea. He never got to realize it, but I did it. This was my great grandma's recipe, and today it is a renowned bakery. Because those things were written down. So write it down, if not for you, for the generations after you. And I would like to know what's the most powerful thing you've taken out of this session today. Thank you so much for sticking with me and for staying with me. And I will see you next Sunday. Don't forget, write it down in the comments. And I also like to hear your stories. If there are things that you've written down and today they are no longer just existing on paper but in reality, I would love to hear your story, how you pushed your idea from paper to reality. And if there are ideas that you've lost and you wish that you wrote them down and you followed through, I would still like to hear them. And if you have a means of conceiving those ideas and trapping it in your head, like you could remember and follow through with it, I would also like to hear that. Let's learn from each other. What do you do differently when an idea pops into your head? What are the things, what are the steps you take? And I'm all open to learning, and I'm sure most of the viewers too will like to learn from your story. So use the comment section, or you could send me a DM and I could post it. Thank you very much, and I will see you